Okay, you guys, let's do this. It's going to be so professional. Like, so professional. Here we go. Well, welcome to the Live Support Podcast with your hosts, Michele and June Colson, a couple of clean comedians who support each other and others through comedy's wacky and winding roads. I hope you're ready. Get set. Let's go. Since podcasts have a catchy tune, we wrote this song for Michele and June. Clean comedians are best friends too. Oh, it's so good. And you never know what they'll say or do. Here we go, sing with me on Live Support, with Michele, who's really short. We'll have a ball, with June, who's really tall. They have fun, interviewing comedians on Live Support, with Michele, who's really short. Now it's time to start Live Support.
The Live Support Podcast is brought to you by the Hot Breath Comedy Network.
Wow, give yourself a round of applause.
It never gets old. It never gets old. Welcome to the Live Support, the award-winning Live Support Podcast. I'm your host, June Colson, here with Michele with one L, who's very short. Van Dusen. Hey,
not
Michele.
Today. Look at the way I think my chair raised up too much because I look really big and you look really small today. So if you're watching this on YouTube or Roku or Creative Motion Network, yeah, that's better. I'm just looking at like I don't look short today. So maybe if I move my camera away from me, how about that? No,
there you go. Well, I did lower my chair a little bit. So listen, I'm so excited about this episode. Look, I just did the face. Okay, I just did the face.
Yes, you did.
This is the still shot that they got of me when I did the crowd warm up at the Huckabee show.
I love that shot.
It's hilarious.
It's the best.
Me.
You're like, wow.
That's my freak out. That's my freak out energy. But as we talked about before, though, like I may have done it wrong. We'll find out. Our guest today can tell us. But as a crowd warm up, I felt like the energy that I had in me, I wanted that to go out into the audience, right? I wanted them to be excited. I was excited, and I know that this is the opportunity to get people hyped up. But they have a cameraman who and he captured that beautiful moment of the Psycho June, the raw.
It reminds me of that episode of on Tootsie. I don't know if you ever watched the movie Tootsie, where Dustin Hoffman is playing a female character on a soap opera, and so you hear the directors going, "Okay, can we zoom in? Not that close, because they get up real close, like."
This goes back to my bobblehead, though. This goes back to the
bobble.
Who was it? Jonathan? Yeah. Oh gosh, Jonathan
Nicholas.
No, Nicholas. Gosh, there's the messed up name again. Yeah, the bit. Give him the bobble. Like it constantly. My head is so big, it always looks like it's like a close up of my face. Okay, Michele. So before we bring our guest on, I got to show you. I think we're going to start doing this at the beginning of the show. It's going to be what did June find at Mo's house? Okay, so for our listeners, you all know my mama Mo. She's passed away May 15th. And I'm helping my dad go through all of her things. And my mom, she was a hoarder, like clinically, like she literally was a hoarder. Any episode you ever saw of that, like it's not been the easiest in the world to be able to sort through those things and go through that with my daddy hot dog. But there's interesting things that show up. Okay. So we found some very interesting things. We'll go over these maybe next episode, but do you remember these guys? Garbage Pail Kids?
Wow, those are so old. You could probably get some good money for that.
Oh yeah.
Possibly.
So next episode we'll go over those because I don't want to waste too much time. But then I realized why I have such a weird taste in music and why I never learned a specific genre. Because my family, I have boxes and boxes of mom's records. Okay,
yeah,
Crystal Gale, there it is. I remember her hair, and every doll that I had, her name was Crystal. My firstborn daughter was going to be named Crystal Gale because I was really creative. We got Ray Charles. Okay. So Crystal Gale. Then we got Ray Charles.
Two great musicians.
Yes. The twist party. Okay. I think I've mentioned this before.
Chubby Checker? Come on now.
My mom was the very first twist victim at the Indianapolis hospital, where she blew her knee out doing the twist at a sock hop. And she loved to tell everybody all about how Chubby Checker destroyed her knee. So I'm hanging on to this one. All right.
Yeah.
Then we got Purple Rain.
Okay, wait. Where did that one come from?
I know. So
Mom one of these things does not belong. It's Purple Rain.
Listen, no, it gets better. Purple Rain. So this was Prince and I had the same birthday, and I absolutely loved Purple Rain. He was so dramatic and sad, like me when I was a kid, right? Then Amy Grant. Amy Grant didn't even know that my parents ever listened to any Christian artist.
My husband had that one.
Did he? Okay, so
yeah, he did.
So there's
Amy
I
Grant
didn't know in the mix.
A lot of Amy Grant at all. So
break dance. How about break dance? I didn't break dance. My brother didn't break dance, so that leaves Mo and Hot Dog. Can you imagine?
That's how she blew out her knee. She blew out her knee doing break dance. She didn't do it from Chubby Checker. I'm sorry.
No, maybe it was the other knee. Then we have like Breakin', the movie Breakin', soundtrack to that. Right. Okay. So apparently my parents were really into breakdancing. And then this is my favorite. Check it out.
What is this? 20 aerobic dance.
20 aerobic dance hits.
I'm so glad that didn't say like it was only Jane Fonda or only the guy. What's the guy? What's his name? The oldie guy, the
Twisted
hair.
To the Oldies.
No,
Richard Simmons. Richard Simmons.
Yeah.
No, Richard Simmons at least had good music. I'm so confused by this record. 20 aerobic dance hits. Okay. I get it. Fame. That one. I'm gonna live forever. Yeah. Okay. I got that. I got that one. But then Driving My Life Away. Ooh, I'm driving my life away, looking for a sunny day for me.
Kenny Loggins
like
or
how
something?
How do you exercise to that?
You're driving. What? You got your one arm out, then you put your one arm in, then you put your one arm, and you got to turn.
Elvira was an aerobic. Elvira, my heart's on fire for Elvira. How is this aerobic music?
Is this aerobics for those that are sitting in chairs?
I don't know. Funky Town. I get it. Won't you take me to Funky Town? Okay. Copacabana. At the Copacabana. But here's where they lost me. Stand By Me. When the night has come. How is that aerobic music? Like, I don't understand. I'm so confused.
Just the title, Stand By Me. That's almost as when my sister said she was, she's going to go exercise. She's going to do yoga. I'm like, you're going to breathe? Really?
Yeah.
You're just going to just go breathe.
I don't know.
What a workout that was.
That is probably something I need to do because I don't think I ever slowed down enough to breathe. But come on, Stand By Me is aerobic music. But this is my family and their taste in music in my life. I was always nothing was ever consistent or made sense.
It explains the ADD.
It does explain the ADD. But we're doing it. We're doing it. God uses it. He can use it. Okay. He can use it. All right. So yeah. Here's the deal, Pickle.
Yeah.
I bring up the music and all of that because I'm super excited to have the guest that we're on today. What brought this guest to our attention is my experience being able to meet her and work with her at the Huckabee show. But she is so multi-talented, and music is a huge part of the gift that God gave her. So tell us, Van Dusen, who is on the show today?
I'm like, are you doing the intro now? What's happened? What happened?
No. Okay. No. It's all you. Go, Michele. Go while you can. I'll drink water and be quiet.
Everybody listen now. I mess up this name too. Our guest today has a beautiful testimony of redemption. She's an author, a music recording artist, a minister of music, a pastor, and also a performing Patsy Cline impressionist. That's pretty cool. She is the events and audience producer for Huckabee, which airs on the Trinity Broadcasting Network. Let's welcome to the Laugh Support Podcast this multi-talented woman of faith, Wanette Turner.
Hello, everybody. Hey. No, I've been here. I have been listening to you, and I've been using my shirt to wipe away the laughter tears. You're silly. I mean, some of those songs that you just listed from that album, I'm going, I think that was probably mostly early 80s music.
Yes.
Which I'm thinking, I'm almost 60, so I'm obviously older than you ladies. And I can tell you those were songs that we loved back in the late 70s, early 80s. So I imagine that's probably where a lot of that came from. But anyway.
Well, can you imagine though? I definitely don't get Stand By Me as aerobic activity. Like,
I'm not sure. Maybe a slow dance for a couple. I don't know.
maybe.
Oh
That
wait,
could be.
no. Wasn't that a movie? I'm thinking that the
Yeah.
Stand By Me is when they found the dead body, everyone was running. And so
You think
now they
so?
have the aerobic, or when they're on the train is coming and they're running and
yeah.
running. That's
Yeah.
where the exercise comes from. You're welcome.
That truly was like that soundtrack to that movie was one of my favorite. Like to this, I pulled it up the other day and just listened to it. It has Lollipop and Mr. Lee, and it's got some of my favorite songs on there.
Yes.
But okay,
That's so
so
part I know that one.
enough about the aerobic music. So Wanette, okay, I got to meet you through the Huckabee show. Okay. So my first time going, one of the comedians, his first time doing crowd warm up, it was Lee Harden. And I met Lee through Jeff Allen at a writers group outside of Nashville. And Lee was like, hey, they let a couple people go backstage. His parents weren't able to go with him. And so my husband and I kind of were like Lee's parents, I guess. Yeah. And so he was like, do you want to go backstage? Would you and Jay like to go with me? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And so the first time I went, I got to go backstage with him and see just see the workings of what was going on behind the scenes. And then they took us out to our seat and they set us down in the audience. And I had never seen a television show filmed before.
Oh, okay.
And so this was my very first time experiencing all of that. And it was absolutely fascinating. And I got to see how the people at Huckabee were just so kind to Lee and to all of the people who were in the audience. And it's this whole vibe and this experience that people get to have when they come to the show. And so if you would tell us a little bit about how you got to work for the Huckabee show, and then kind of how you got into this booking warm-up comedians for the show.
Yeah. Okay. So this, how much time do you have?
We have all the time you need, sister.
All the time.
And for the record, we have no tech skills, so we don't edit. So everything that we do, it's out there real and raw.
So what I'm doing right now, I'm looking down because I'm trying to look for something that I want to show you, and I have it right here. So what happens is, gosh, I guess back in I guess it was around 1990. Of course, like I've already mentioned my age, I'm a little bit older, so I've had a few experiences in life. But my parents were pastors. Both of my grandfathers were pastors, and everyone in our family was musical. So when I turned 15, we were from Southern Ohio, just above Cincinnati. My father decided that he wanted to move us all to Nashville because all of his kids were musical, and he was a minister, and he felt like he was being led to come to the Tennessee area. And I, being his oldest of 5 kids, was the one that was more aware of what was really happening. And so I was quite traumatized over it, not realizing that it was God's plan.
Yeah.
But once we got settled, the only remembrance I have of it is we had this big car, 5 kids in the back seat, laying on a pile of clothes. Okay. And that was all we took with us. And we started over in Tennessee. We landed in Hendersonville, Tennessee, which by our irony is where I now work, is in Hendersonville, Tennessee, all these years later. I'm almost 60, and that was over 40 some years ago, in 1978 in November, when we moved to Tennessee. Fast forwarding, I instantly began to get musical opportunities to do demos for songwriters in Nashville. I did my first recording session at the age of 15 to sing songs that were originals written by writers that either I knew from my church or just from being around town and my parents' acquaintances. It kind of led me down a path of realizing that music was a gift that I'd been given. And I really enjoyed the way people seemed to respond to music when I sang. And I didn't, of course, I'm so young. I don't really understand, all the inner workings of why or what all was going on. But later in life, I realized that was just part of God's plan. And God uses music to help people. It's a healing agent in life. So as time went on, I realized I wanted more of it. I started seeking a record deal with the help of some individuals, was doing very well, meeting the right people. And at this time, I was only 16. This was when Amy Grant had just hit big. You just mentioned Amy Grant.
Yeah.
And I was going to Koinonia bookstore to the concerts and things that the writers were doing. And she was one of the regulars out there with her guitar, and we would all be there singing along. And I realized that this was a path that I think God was going to take me down. So as a young pastor's kid, I'm praying about my future and whatever that's going to be. But I began to realize that God had instilled within me some other gifts, which is the gift of gab and the gift to, to just be a people person, be a listener, to be a good conversationalist. And I realized that I had this hospitable nature about me. And I cried a lot. I had a lot of compassion over people and things that they were dealing with. So I'm like, what in the heck, why did you make me like this? Not knowing that as I grew older, all of this was going to come into play.
Yeah.
But as I did a lot of records, worked with all these different people. And one day I was like, wait a minute, I'm doing all this music for everybody else, but I'm not doing anything for myself. What's going on here, And so I finally started working on my own music and realized I'm also a writer. And so I started writing music. I found myself struggling with the gospel type music, and it was easier for me to write country music because it was more about life where I was at the moment, and it was easier for me to articulate words for country songs rather than gospel, because gospel seemed so elevated and more heavenly. It seemed like it was harder for me to articulate the kinds of words as a young girl, that I could express myself in music. As I got older, it was easier to do that. So I went to Branson in the early 90s because I was trying to get more stage experience. I had all the music. I'd won some talent competitions. I'd, done a lot of things, but I didn't really have a lot of stage experience. And this was what all the record labels in Nashville kept telling me was, you're awesome. We really like you, but you don't have any experience with live audiences. I was like, I'm with a live audience every week. I'm in church on the platform,
Yeah.
But it's not the same. It's not the same, ma'am. And I'm just like, okay. So I went to Branson with the hopes that I could audition and land a gig. And at the time I was married, 19. And the plan was, hey, we're going to go audition. If you can get the job, we'll move there. So I got the job, but I not only got that job, I auditioned for several others. I got 3 job offers. So it was like, okay, the music thing is right. I've got the opportunity. So we moved to Branson. I moved to Branson and started working live shows. They started teaching me how to dance, how to do audience engagement. And all of these words are words that we use now with the Huckabee show. Audience engagement, entertainment. Then after Branson, I worked with a lot of wonderful artists. I started to develop my Patsy Cline show. And that was a fluke. I was working at the Mickey Gilley Theater doing a morning show. We had a lot of buses that would come through. And the guy that ran the show, he was a songwriter in Nashville. And he impersonated Hank Williams. So he decided, okay, in the second half of the show, we're going to switch gears and we're going to impersonate well-known artists in the second half of the show from now on. And so he's looking at this person. He's like, you're going to be this guy. You're going to be this girl. And you're going to do that. And he looks at me and goes, you're going to be Patsy Cline. And I said, the heck I am. Not to be Patsy. Don't you dare, that. No. Because everybody knows what she sounds like. They know what her look is. There's no way I could ever master that. And in my upbringing, my parents were great singers and writers and musicians. They taught me how to sing harmony at like 4 years old. I'm like very, a very disciplined structure. I would sit on the organ stool with my mother while she's playing organ, and more than often she was bumping into me with her elbow trying to hit a high key. That's how close I was sitting next to her on the stool. But I was learning from her while she's playing and singing. She'd say, like, try to harmonize with me while she's playing and singing. she's listening to me at the same time as she's doing worship at our church. And I was learning how to do harmony. So what I'm getting at is that in my training of music, it had to be perfect or I wasn't doing it, because my parents had instilled perfection in me. So when he says Patsy Cline, I'm like, no, give me somebody easy. Give me somebody that it's easy for me. I started to say a name, but I'm not going to say it. Do, because then I can make mistakes and everybody would say, oh, isn't that funny? She's great, But I ended up doing Patsy, and that's how that started. Was not me planning it. It was like, Wanette, you're going to do it or you're fired. And I said, where's the wig?
Yes.
Simple as that. So he drove me to Springfield, Missouri one day, and we picked out a wig and a costume. He said, I'll buy you some boots, and you need to come up with an outfit with some fringe. And so that's how that started. And to this day, 30 some years later, I'm still doing Patsy Cline for charities and special events, not for money typically. If I ever do it for money, the money goes into Music Amplifies, which is a kind of I want to call it a nonprofit, but it hasn't been approved yet. But we put money back to help other causes with that. So that was kind of my first introduction to audience engagement and entertaining on a different level than in the church. And so then years later, after working with so many different people, I left and went to Myrtle Beach. I worked in Pigeon Forge, all these other tourism towns, Patsy. And I got married. I had divorced and gotten married. And a year and a half later, we had my son Chase. And when that happened, I retired from music and decided, okay, it's a new season for me. I'm going to be a mother. And I don't know what's next. Well, as it would have it, I came back to Nashville, and there was an opening at the local newspaper called Gannett, which is like, they own like 100. At the time, they owned hundreds of newspapers across the globe, one of the biggest communications companies out there. I started working at that point in advertising and marketing, artwork and design. I love doing designing advertising ads and things like that. All of this started to pile up in experience to where I'm headed down the road. And I guess, the theme of the story is, you never know what jobs you have here that don't come back to be part of your life again down the road. Okay. So I kept trying to say, I don't understand why all these moves, but I'm with you, God. I'll go with every option or every path that you put in front of me.
Yes.
Every open door. And so as fate would have it, I got a job working in advertising and media. And then I switched to tourism advertising, which is another whole level to this. And one day I was at Trinity Broadcasting Network's Nashville base, and they were one of my clients, and they were doing advertising through me, through tourism magazines, because they were trying to reinvent themselves as a tourist attraction again, after they had been for like years there. But then when Conway Twitty passed away, they bought the land out in Hendersonville and then started developing it. They had good tourism for a while, and then they started switching off to production work and things like that. So there really wasn't as much for people to do when they came. So they hired me to come in and try to be the voice of the community, get out there, tell people about us, come on out, tour the property, see Conway Twitty's old house. They own the property that used to be called Twitty City. So anybody that knows who Conway Twitty was would know he built it in 81. And then he was there until he passed. And I think that was around 93 or early 94. And then TBN came in and bought it. So there's all this rich history there on the property. And as a person that lived in the area for a while, I was familiar with it. But at the time, they were really doing well. I was still living abroad. I was in the tourist town, so I wasn't really there during their heyday of launching TBN in the Nashville area. So they hired me. They asked me, would you consider working for us? And basically I was like, yes, let me talk to my husband about it. And I went home and he said, they offered you a job, didn't they? And I said, how did you know that? He said, I just knew it. I just knew it because you're what you are capable of would be such a, match for that. And I was like, wow, I can't believe that you had that feeling. He goes, yeah. So I took the job, not knowing what the future would be, no expectations, realizing that it was going to be completely different than what I had been doing. I was in a leadership role in tourism and marketing and advertising. Here at TBN, I was not in a leadership role. So it was a real challenge for me, to just say, step back and go, okay, you're not in charge. Just be a blessing. Do whatever God lays in front of you in your hands and go for it. And so I did the best that I could. About 4 years into it, they walk up to me one day and go, hey, we're getting ready to launch a new show. And we think that you would be a really good fit as a team member for this specific new show. Would you be interested? I'm like, well, yeah, what's the show? They're like, we can't tell you. And I'm going,
yeah.
You want me to say yes and you can't even tell me what it is, or who it is?
Yes.
Yeah, we can't tell you yet. We can't do that. And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm interested. Please keep me in mind when you can tell me. And so I guess about another month went by and they came back again and told me. And they said, we have we're going to put a new show together and it's going to be the former governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee. Do you know him? I said, heck yeah, I know who he is. And they said, well, would you be interested? I said, oh yes, I would absolutely be interested in that. And their comment was, well, your music background, your entertainment background, your TV background, your marketing, advertising, your people person skills are all going to be so important. And that's why we think you're the fit for this job. We could go get someone, but we know your background. Would you? And I was like, I would, oh my gosh, I would love to do this. So they gave me the honor of being there before it even started, being in on all of the planning meetings, helping to create what the audience experience was going to be, all the way to creating. I don't know if you remember, June, when you were on there, they played a history video before the show started of what the history of the property and the theater was, the audience and things like that. So they let me be part of that. And I was so honored by that. I've been there now for, I think, a little over 8 years total. And 4.5 of that has been with the Huckabee Show. Our first show was October the 6th, 2017. We're only about 8 episodes away from starting season 6, believe it or not. Can you believe that?
Wow.
So we're in season 5 now, far into it, and it's going well. So that's how the job opportunity became available. And so for me, it was important for me to figure out, okay, what's my mission statement going to be? What is it? How important is it? What is it good? What needs to be said for if I have a team that I'm putting together? What do they need to know their role is in all of this? So I'm pulling this up because I wanted to show you. I could tell you what the scripture is, but I thought it would be better to read it to you. So I developed a mission statement, and part of the audience experience is knowing what our role is we call ourselves Huckabee helpers. That's our title. The mission statement is 1 Peter 4, 8 through 11. And it basically talks about, above all, love each other deeply because love covers over a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. To me, that's such a powerful line. His grace in its various forms.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I was like, okay. And if anyone serves, they should do so with the strength that God provides, so that in all things, God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. So that was the mission scripture or statement of our team. And I started to develop this team. And my thought was, I don't want my audience to just be coming to a TV taping. I need to understand who they are, first of all. So I've learned over time what our demographic is, the ages, which I think, June, I might have shared with you ahead of time.
Yes.
Hey, they're typically this old, they have grandkids, they're patriotic, all of these different variables. But we wanted them to have what we call the Huckabee experience. So we started deciding, what does that look like? So we started thinking about things that would be important to them, like patriotism, So we have, I created a big giant flag that has dog tags on it that they can fill out and put veterans' names on it and hang them to the flag.
Oh,
And
wow. That's
now
neat.
it has about 3,000 veterans'
Yeah.
names on it. And we have it, on the wall. And as the audience comes through before they're seated, they can memorialize a loved one on that flag, and they remain there still today after all these years. We also have a Christmas tree that's spray painted red, white, and blue, and veterans come in and bring ornaments. Like this guy that might have been in the Air Force brings a plane, or this lady that might have worked for the Seabees. She brings something that reminds her of that. And so we've allowed them to make it their own. And so we support community causes. We let the audience bring in donatable items that go to a cause every month. Like right now, we're collecting things for kids for a child's advocacy program that's in the county. And then once a month, we just surprise these nonprofits or organizations with all the things that the audience brought in, which piles up over a month's time, as you can imagine. And they're always so blessed and moved by it. And it's a great way for us as a show and a team, the Huckabee Helpers, to say, we love you. We're part of the community with you. These people, the audience members, love you too. And many of them don't even live here, but they want to see you be successful. And so we've developed this experience where they not only come in and register, of course, we have security to go through. Everyone has to do that. But also they come in, they are served refreshments, they're served a dessert, or if it's a theme night, let's say if it's Elvis night, Elvis is walking around and they're taking pictures with him. And we try to create a fun vibe, so that when they go in for the show, they're all hyped up. If it's not on that, it's on sugar. One or the other.
Yes.
So we just have created this, and so the warm-up thing,
amazing.
The warm-up part of it was, I felt like, okay, we can only do so much as the helpers. But I think if we bring in some comedy ahead of time that can kind of help them to refocus and help them, to get ready to be entertained, get their laughter and their giggles going, that it would be really good. And you know what? It has been. It's been amazing. And June, you were amazing. Everyone loved you so much. And what's fun about it too, for me, is I'm sitting back at my station watching you guys do your craft, and I'm dying laughing just like everyone else. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I wonder if somebody backstage is listening to them. Because if they really like them, they may ask them to be on the show, actually be on air, and that has happened. And so it's such a joy to me to allow the warm-ups to come in and share their craft, and not only, have to share it with an audience of a couple hundred people, which is what we see on the lower level, but to also be able to share it with the full team, the camera operators, the backstage helpers. I don't know, June, who you ran into backstage, but there was a lot of people back there, right?
Yes.
So the team is massive. I mean, the number of people that just produce one show is in the 50s to 60s numbers of people that it takes to actually produce it. So, it's been incredible. And I know their vision was something pretty powerful, which I'll share with you a little bit later. I'd love to let you guys get a word in edgewise here. With you have the show.
Oh no, I think that's awesome. And from the very beginning, as you began to speak and you were talking about all of these different elements that got to put in your life, I was that little girl who was the chatty Cathy. I do a bit in my comedy called The Gift of Gab, but my dad told me it was the curse of conversation. and I got it from my mother. And one of my punchlines is, she's the only woman I know that telemarketers have on a do not call list. And when you are that person who is that imaginative person, and you talk all the time and your brain is going like that, and you get more hush, June, hush. Like I thought hush was my middle name because I heard it all the time, and it can stifle that in you. And sometimes it can feel like this is a curse. Like I'm, something's wrong with me because, and I would feel like this is the only skill set I have. Like I don't really, there's not, but when you're talking about, loving people, and Michele can tell you, like I didn't realize that being accommodating could be a spiritual gift, could be something that, you know, because my home is the home that everyone comes to and we take care of. And I was listening to you, and it just, God was kind of reminding me of like, remember how you thought that couldn't be used, you know? And so it was a powerful experience for me. And I think something about me that maybe is a little bit different than other comics is that would be amazing. That would be amazing if someone heard me and they went, wow, we want her on the show.
Yeah.
But because God called me into comedy, I don't ever look at an experience like this is make or break.
Right.
If I mess this up, they'll all hate me and I'll never get to do comedy again. Well, God, as you said, doors open, doors close. And you thank him for the closed doors as much as you should thank him for the ones that open. And what I want to do is always honor him. One of the guys in the green room said, are you nervous? And I said, I'm learning to change the language from I'm nervous to I'm excited and stop saying that I'm nervous. And I hope that I am always excited. Because
you have that picture to prove it.
I have that picture because that's me, right? But it also feels like that's the part of me that I've always had to like hold back, be cool, June, be cool. You know, I don't want to think you're such a nerd, but I am. I'm a complete dork. But I was so blessed by so Keith Bilbrey, who I got to introduce, which I did mess that up because I thought he was going to be at the podium to the side. Michelle, you've seen the video. I thought he was going to be at the side. He comes out of the back. Of course, I had to do something wrong because I think it's okay. It's okay if you mess up because it's human. And, you know, I didn't want to mess up royally or anything. But Keith and his wife, it's Emmy Lou, right? Emmy Jo. I'm sorry. Yes. I said Lou. Emmy Jo, believe it or not, they came to the Clean Comedy Challenge in Nashville in 2020 when we could only have 20 audience members in the entire club. Everybody was 6 feet apart, and they were there the night that I won the Clean Comedy Challenge.
Oh, nice.
And I remember seeing behind the mask, I could see Keith and his wife were smiling. They were, you could tell they've been in the industry a long time. Like literally, it was such a tough environment to do comedy in. And you could see them willing the contestants on, like truly, like I was watching them, watching other comedians before it was my turn to go up. And you find the people in the room. I can tell you the faces. There was a gentleman at the Huckabee show in the very front row. When I started doing the McDonald's menu, his expression, I was like, this is the guy, because sometimes it'll just be for one person in the room. Everybody might not get what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah.
But God has always said, June, there's somebody in this room that I wanted to either see you succeed or fail. Like sometimes even in the failure, you get to connect with somebody and have a conversation. But Keith and his wife, they were just very special in that front row. And then afterwards, I remember they came up and asked to take a picture with me after I won. And I thought, this is the voice of the Grand Ole Opry. Why would he want a picture with me? Like, oh my gosh. But when I was in the green room, I reintroduced myself to Keith. And he was like, oh yes, no, I remember you. But when his wife came in, she goes, oh, you did the McDonald's menu. Like she remembered me. She came in the room and she remembered me and gave me a big hug and embraced me. And I did, I got to, you know, conversate. There's a girl named Katie back there who was so kind. And I'll tell you the first time that I came to the Huckabee show when I was with Lee, I went to the restroom because I didn't know when they were going to take us out. And I come out of the bathroom and the governor is standing there. And then I had been having like a 20-minute conversation with the makeup artist who was in the room because that's what I do. And I learned that she was from Nashville and I, you know, all of these things about her. And I go to the bathroom and I come out and there he is. And I'm like, did I go in the men's bathroom? Like, this is where I met him, was like the women's restroom. And I'm such a dork. I was just like, okay, I've already messed it up. But,
I mean, where do you go and walk out of a bathroom door and walk into a governor? I mean, you don't.
No, but that's my life. That's how weird my experiences in life are. But you definitely created. So the first time I went backstage, but the second time I came, I just came to watch a couple of my friends who were on the show. And so then I went through security.
Yes.
And that sounds so intimidating. Security,
know,
even
right?
security are the kindest people. at the show. And it is. So I've got to go several times and just be in that area. So Michele, when you get there, there's people from the show already standing outside the doors before you go through security. Just, hey, like they're your best friend. You feel so welcome from the second you step on that property. The security is kind to you as they're waving the wand, because I always set off the alarm with something. And then
That's
and then
true.
they have food and stuff. And I am a people watcher as well. So I step back and I watch the excitement of the people in the room. And so then I got to where I kind of hover over by the cutout of the governor, because people always want their picture and I'm not doing, most of the time I'm just there by myself. And so I'll take
You're
pictures.
photobombing every person's picture.
Oh yeah. I'm jumping in. I'm selfie. Everyone who is at the Huckabee show, when I'm there and I go through the security area, they all have my picture on their phones.
You want to be a Huckabee helper?
I would love to be a Huckabee helper. I love
She's
it.
an unofficial Huckabee
I'm
helper.
unofficial. I hang out, talk to the people, but I'm telling you, I had friends come that night. One who's a veteran, who's a Marine, a veteran, and they're from here in Bowling Green, one of the sweetest couples, and super strong in their faith and their community and all of that stuff. And they didn't know anything about the show.
Oh, wow.
And I've been, so they were like, we're coming back. You know, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, they not only do they honor veterans, but you guys also do first responders as well.
We do. Yeah.
And my husband's a retired fire
family.
chief. Yes, that's my whole family. My husband's a retired fire chief. My father-in-law was there, who was a volunteer fire chief for 15 years, retired from Toyota, came back to his hometown, and is now back helping the department in his area. Right. And my mother-in-law, who, by the way, I don't know that Wanette, I'm sorry, she didn't read the dress code necessarily, because it's kind of like a casual, like,
but a lot of people think it's a tourism vacation thing.
Yeah, she wore a hot pink June Colson comedy t-shirt in the center of the and she just kept pointing to my name, like, nobody knows me, Nana. Nobody knows.
Like that. That's great.
So she had such a good time. But so when it comes to the warm up, one thing that I noticed at the Huckabee show, everybody's funny. Trey Corley,
yes,
hilarious. He leads the band in the Huckabee show. Keith is so funny, and his banter back and forth. The governor. Okay, so the night that I was on, Shonda Pierce was there. Oh, and wow. Shonda has become a mentor and a friend of mine. And I was so excited because that was such a God moment where I got to text her right away when I was like, guess who's doing the warm up that night? So she came up, gave me a hug, made sure that the governor knew that she knew me and I knew him. And he was telling jokes to Shonda. And they were just reminiscing and telling stories. But like, comedy is such a huge part of that show, isn't it?
100%. I mean, it's the most common part of everything there. I mean, the governor, when I first met him, I mean, I only knew him of his political history or seeing him on Fox, or news commentation or stuff like that. But then when you start working with him, you see he's super quick-witted.
Yes.
I mean, super quick. I mean, I don't know where it comes from, but he is an amazing host because he's so good at the quick little, jokes and comments. And then you throw Keith into that, you throw Trey into that, and all three of them together create this ridiculously funny situation. You cannot sit in the audience at the Huckabee show and not laugh. You can't. Yeah. And so the warm-up comedy is kind of the setup for the whole thing. So without the warm-up comedy, it feels like it just doesn't work without that. You have to have that first. And then all the rest of the things that they do, the other three guys on stage, you've already primed them. They're ready to laugh. They're having a good time. And they're open to it. Yeah. See, the warm-up comedy is what kind of opens them up to be able to really receive. My goal is always to make sure that everybody leaves with delight on their face. That is the senior producer who initially helped us launch the show, who has moved on to other projects. He always told me, so Wanette, whatever you create for an experience, make sure that they're leaving with delight on their face and rolling from their lips. And it will be great. It'll be a success. And he was really instrumental in that. As a matter of fact, he's Katie's, who you talked about, father. Katie's father is an amazing producer. He's done projects all over the world, TV production. And so it was an honor to have to be under him, as well as another gentleman named Andy Freeman for the first 3 years of the show. I have been so blessed by all of these people that God has brought into my life through this experience. And the comedians, the warm-up comedians, oh my gosh, you guys are such a blessing to my life. I count it an honor for you to know my name and for me to know your name. It's just, it's cool. I love it. It's that extension thing, that communication thing. It's that connection thing, that being a person of Gab, I live and breathe for the connections. It's what life is all about.
Yeah.
And how we can be a blessing to people through those connections. So yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about for me. It's been such an honor, and we have had some of the most extraordinary guests. Like for instance, if you remember Meatloaf, who was a rock legend,
Yes.
The last appearance he did was with us, and got up and sang several songs and of course blew everybody away, including the very best of the best that was there, blew all of us away. So we've had people like him and the Beach Boys and Hollywood celebrities and political people. But in every case, our goal is we don't care where they stand on anything. We're not there to judge or to try to make them think like us or act like us.
Right.
It's all about being a blessing to them and helping them to see what it's, as their experience there is, making sure that it emulates the love of Christ in whatever form that it takes on. So it's been a blessing to see that we can be a blessing to the people that are actually on-air guests who have never been with us before, may not have any concept of what it is to be on a Christian television TV set, and actually receive the feeling that they are great, important, and are valued. And so that is one of our mission, goals, is to be a blessing to them. But we also want to create programming for the on-air TV viewers, the people that are going to see the show, the program. And then the third element is the people that are in the studio, the audience, and which is why the warm-up comedy is so important, that it's clean and that it's wholesome and all of that. It's because we also want to be a blessing. You got 3 different ways or audiences that you're dealing with. For every tape, in the audience of the back on-air guests, the audience of the viewers, and the audience of the live studio. It's been phenomenal to see how everything comes together and can make such a statement that emulates. It's kind of like it whispers the name of Jesus.
Yes.
The program, but it's not about Jesus. It's about what's going on in the world, in the news. It's the entertainment. It's the comedy. It's the guy on the tricycle, that's trying to, whatever you call those, unicycle.
Yes.
Right around the stage. Then it's 12 feet tall, and it's all about the experience, and the moments come together and create the whisper. You see what I'm saying? So there's still a faith base to it, but it's not a Christian program. It is hosted by a believer.
Yes.
But it is not branded as a Christian. And that is why we have people come from everywhere, all walks of life, to be part of the live studio audience. It's been so incredible. I actually met a man that's 105 years old, Michele, like a month ago.
Wow.
105, still kicking. And I was blown away that he was such a super fan of the show. And we decided to buy a giant sheet cake and have a huge birthday party for him with the live audience. And it's those moments that you can create with an audience, the Huckabee experience that I'm talking about. You create moments that become memories that they'll never forget. And you hope that somewhere in that moment, they realize that somebody loves them. And that's what my job is. That's it.
So good.
Well, you definitely feel loved when you're there. You can definitely tell that that the Spirit of Christ is all around that theater, and it definitely is a place that someone of faith feels comfortable. It feels like a place that you could be, can be very comfortable. I've been there when there was an acrobat hanging off of the ceiling.
Oh,
I've
my
seen,
goodness, yeah.
I've seen magicians, and it is cool. It is cool to see a variety of things that are happening. Now, Michele, you had a question about, you were curious about the etiquette, like the things
Yeah.
that
But before I ask about the etiquette, I actually because you guys keep talking about just the experience of being an audience member, can just anybody go? Like how do you get to be an audience member at the Huckabee show?
Yeah, here's the amazing thing about it. It's free. Number one.
What?
There's no cost involved. So the only thing that we require is that you go online ahead of time and register your seat. Because we have a limited number of seats, obviously, we can only allow so many people per taping. So what we do is we put it up on Huckabee.tv, and you just click on free tickets, and then it lists like the next 4 or 5 tapings at a time. And you click on the one that you want to go to. And the only requirement is that you are at least 16 years of age. So, we can't actually bring in a high school group unless they're that age or older. But we've been known to do tours to bring in classes and homeschooling programs and leadership programs in the county. We'll bring in students and we'll just walk them through the set. We'll talk about the history of the property. We'll tell them things like that. But you have to be at least 16 to actually attend a taping. That is the only restriction. So when you go online, it's all about just registering yourself, making sure that you fill out the information correctly, because we do need to know a few things ahead of time, because security is very important to us. It's not about the governor's security, it's about yours. And, from time to time, because he did run for president several years ago, there are still a few people out there that want to try to be troublemakers. So you do what you can to go above and beyond to make sure that everyone in the audience knows that they are safe. And so the only thing we ask is that you register online and you answer the questions that are there, which will also help us know who you are. So if there ever was an emergency or anything, we know how to reach out and take care of everyone. But that's it. It's really that. It's simple. No money. We have tour groups that come, but we tell the tour people, just don't tell them it's free. Just include it in your program. And if you're a tour bus operator, we'll go above and beyond and give them something extra. We'll treat them, we'll give them better seating or bring them in first. We'll give them an armband or a souvenir, something to help you as a tour operator know that even though it's free and you're charging for your service, that they know they're getting extra special treatment, even though the ticket was free. And so we found ways, to not only accommodate tour groups as well as individuals and groups. We'll have groups of 10, 12 come in, like Sunday school classes or life groups, cell groups, as people used to call them, senior groups from, let's say, a retirement village, a few hours away, and there'll be 15 or 20 people. And then some of them will be 50 to 60 people. So it really is whatever you want. And, so we can accommodate it all, but it's free. That's how you do it.
Wow. That's fantastic. I can't wait to go. And you guys had me at food. I heard cake, and then I heard, and then people, because you want to leave with delight on your face. I'm like, yeah. Do we get snacks on the way out too? Like, come on now. Come on, somebody.
What I try to make sure that everybody understands is we don't actually feed you a full meal. What we do is we always have a dessert and refreshments, but we sometimes will go beyond that if it's a theme night. For instance, we did one night we did Hee Haw night because we had the cast of Hee Haw on the show. So we invited the audience to dress up like their favorite, Hee Haw character. Well, we had the holding area all decorated out. We even had a clothing line with bloomers hanging on it and everything, and we served cornbread out of 10 bowls, and we had like a spread of toppings like jams and preserves and butter, and so they could make their own cornbread like a dessert bar, and we served pinto beans with them. So sometimes we'll do the little extra things just to make the experience a little bit more accurate.
I love it. So did they get to take home the tin cup? Now I'm curious.
They can, yeah. I mean, we don't, anything that's accessible to them is theirs. We We and even the bottled water has Huckabee labels on it. We see people take the bottled water home all the time, or they'll even come through a meet and greet line at the end, which is another part of the experience, and have him autograph it. But that is probably the most coveted part of the audience experience. Would you say, June?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, my in-law, I looked down and my in-laws were the first people in line to get a picture. And the thing is that this is just another part. It's all in the details. It is all in the details. It's such a well-oiled machine that even that runs very smoothly. You don't feel like you're being rushed or pushed away from the governor. He literally looks everyone in the eyes. He shakes their hand. He acknowledges them as a human being. And there's no like, literally someone is holding your bag for you. Another person has your phone, and they don't just take a picture of you in the posed moment. They take multiple pictures as you're just having the conversation. So people leave
like I
with
do.
these. Yes, but you don't realize like how precious that is. I mean, I remember the first time I stood in that line and I got to take pictures. I was there when Lieutenant Colonel Allen West was there, and he stuck around and took pictures with people, and that was such a huge deal. And so it's in the details all the way from the moment you walk in that door till the second you leave, knowing he's going to come down and stand. What's so cute for me is like, in that waiting area, people are taking pictures with the cardboard cutout.
I know. And they don't realize they're going to see him.
Yes. That they're going to get to take a picture with the and now I was there one time when that didn't happen, but I think there may or may not have been a tornado hit right outside the studios.
We were trying to make sure everybody got out of there without, going up in a twist.
Yes. And my son Trey, who came to the show, who, by the way, okay, so my son Trey is he doesn't do a lot with me when it comes to the comedy. It's just weird that mom does this anyway. But he came to the Huckabee show because, one, I made him, and two, because he was going to get to see Wanette. And her son is a country music artist, a very, very good country music artist who is just shooting for the stars right now.
What's his name?
His name is, go ahead, Wanette, you tell him.
I actually have this is my son, Chase. Actually, he's wearing, look, he's wearing a Huckabee hat. Look, she's got her Huckabee t-shirt. She's got a t-shirt with Chase on it. His name is Chase Matthew. And he loves Governor Huckabee, by the way. And so when he did his first promo picture, it was with a Huckabee hat on. I was so shocked when he did that. And this is his buddy, JD, his lovely dog. I'm doing this backwards. There we go. This is JD. JD's getting ready to make his Hollywood debut in Chase's next video.
Oh, wow.
Coming out. It's going to be so sweet.
Well, Trey came with me, and I told him, I said, Miss Wanette, maybe she'll have an opportunity to say hello to you if she's not busy. They'll be glad to introduce you. And he's like, seriously? And that was so cool because him and his friends here, we don't live far from Nashville at all. And him and his friends have been following him from the beginning and watching him. And my kid knows, the lyrics to his songs and all of these things. And Michele, this last weekend, Trey went, this is only the second concert my son's ever been to. And he went and got to watch Chase in Beaver Dam, Kentucky. Is that right? Where the theater was?
The amphitheater there.
Yes. And at the end of the concert, he posts this picture and it's him and his buddies. And I go, oh, well, Joshua, take the picture. Why don't you have him in the picture? And he goes, no, Miss Wanette took the picture. And I was like, and then when they got in the truck, this is what's so cute. When they got in the truck, his buddy John goes, we should have taken a picture with her. They're like, oh gosh, we messed up.
This is what was so funny about that. First, as soon as the concert was over and everybody started exiting, I was talking with my family about, okay, I got to figure out a way to go backstage and get the dog without people, swarming me.
Yes.
And all of a sudden I heard, Miss Wanette, Miss Wanette. And I was like, what? And it was him. And I was like, oh, hey, sweet. He's like, this is my friend so-and-so. And so then about 5 minutes later, I see him again when I'm walking out. And he's like, would you mind taking a picture? And and my first thought was, is he trying to ask me to take a picture with him? And then when I realized it was for him and his friends, I was cracking up inside because I was like, this is like one of those moments where some big celebrity goes, wait a minute, I thought you wanted to take a picture with me.
Well, when they got the pickup truck, they had this moment. They were like, duh, we should have taken a picture with his mother. Because Trey already has a picture with you. He actually got to take a picture with Wanette and Chase's grandmother. It's a family affair there at the Huckabee show. And but here's the deal, Pickle. I watched as Wanette was sharing.
I know, every time she says that, it cracks me up too. And every time. Here's the deal, Pickles.
Listen, so Chase is he's a country music artist, and he has fans from from all over, all different walks of life, who some have faith, some do not. And I got to see Wanette go live, and her son from the stage just took an opportunity to honor God and let people know that they're loved. And he didn't preach to them, but he used his platform. And as a mom of a teenage boy who is in that, was saved when I was little, figuring out my way, not exactly, well, I told a couple of episodes ago, I told Michele I had some Christian comedians all coming over, and Michelle's son had just been like to Africa, saving people. And our friend Dory's daughter had just finished, learning how to deliver babies in foreign countries. And they all have these like kids who are doing big things for the kingdom. And I was like, all right, Trey, at any point, if you want to say you love Jesus and not mention your next tattoo, that'd be great. That'd be great. Of course he laughed because he knows I love him in the walk that he's in, and God loves him more than I do. And he's chasing him harder than I could ever chase him. But to have your son, you never know who's listening or who he's speaking to. But I knew that night my kid heard more than a country song, but he heard a message of hope and faith from somebody he looks up to, from somebody who he admires and has a respect for. I don't want to say a fan, because I think that has a different implication. I just think my kid really has a respect for your son as an artist and what he's doing. And I definitely gained a major respect for him when I got to see that moment. And I know as a mom, it's like, we know our boys, and they don't always make the best decisions, but man, when they honor God, it's the best moment ever as a mom.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate you saying that. I do.
Yeah. So it's super exciting.
I do want to say this about it, and then we can move on. But I have to say, I mean, every time that I get an opportunity to go to a concert, which is not that often, he's told me, Mom, I do it every show. I've committed. I will do this every show. I will take a few minutes to connect with my people, my fans, and let them know who I am at the core. And you're right. I mean, he's not trying to preach to them. He says that I'm not trying to preach to you. I'm not trying to, be anything but just someone that makes sure you leaves here better than you came in, and knows that you are loved. And I want you to know that you can be anything you want. You were born for a purpose. God has a plan. And the only reason he says the only reason I'm here today is because I trusted God's plan even when I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And as a mom, I mean, I'm like you as a mother of a boy. Boys are not easy to raise. They're different.
Yes.
They're different. And Chase was very stubborn and, very, a lot like me growing up. He's a leader. He's not a follower.
Yeah.
So he has a tendency to think everything he says is right. And everybody,
Yep.
So you're dealing with that same thing that you are. And it's like, okay, I'm clashing with my boy here, but I realize what it is I'm seeing pieces of myself in him, and I'm also seeing God's plan. I'm seeing the courage, and I'm seeing the strength that's growing in him, to not worry about what the industry says, but to be who God's called him to be. He doesn't walk around and say, I'm a Christian. He doesn't sing Christian music, but he realizes that there are a lot of people out there that'll never darken the doors of a church building or anything like that. But everybody needs to at least know that somebody loves them, and somebody, roots for them, has a plan for them, believes in them, hopes for them. And we've seen kids walking around with tattoos now that say born for this.
Yes.
Isaiah 54:17 branded all over their bodies. And it's like a movement that has been happening with this song that he wrote about his life, and how God told him, don't lose your faith. You were born for this. And so my biggest personal lesson in the last year has come through all of this. And what I can tell you as a mom of a boy, I've learned that everything is not about me, and everything in my life that's happened to me wasn't about me. And everything I'm seeing in my son's life right now isn't about him. It's about who he's going to impact. It's about the person that's going to say, you know what, that boy's right. I can do this. I can go back to school. I can be what I always wanted to be. I can stop using meth. I can take less drinks. I can stop smoking. I can get my health back. I can love my mom or call my dad and say, I'm sorry. And so we have seen that. And I'm just like, okay, this is bigger than I could ever do in Huckabee as far as impacting people in a positive way, which is always my goal on the show. My boy is doing it a completely different way. And I'm so proud because of that. I've always been proud of him. But what I'm proud most is that I see that handiwork, that whispering Jesus thing we talked about.
Yes.
And I'm just blown away how I would have never been able to orchestrate that. If you had told me 2 years ago that he would be doing this today, I would have said, no, he won't. That he doesn't have the courage to rise up against the industry and to be that. But he does, because it doesn't come from parenting, it comes from God. And so I have all hope for Trey that he's going to be everything that he's, every purpose that is designed for his life is going to come in God's time. And I'm sorry to make this so Christian themed today.
It's all good. It's all good.
But I just want to reject that.
Well, we'll take it. No, I definitely didn't want to go without mentioning that, and just what a blessing that was to him. And again, what a blessing the Huckabee show has been. I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but I've had, when people saw my set or whatever, they reached out and they're like, that's a bucket list for me. It has become, for a lot of Christian comedians, has become a bucket list to go
to be on the show.
To be
I was thinking a bucket list, like everything from McDonald's. What?
No,
that's a big bucket.
Yes, it's become a bucket list thing for a lot of Christian comedians. They've seen their friends on there, and they're like, man, and the reputation is just so strong and so welcoming and warm that that's a place that comedians of faith are drawn to now, that like really want to be there. I'm just blessed.
That makes me feel like
it's
right.
It really is. It definitely is. And so, I just thought, you should know that it's created that culture too, that draws artists to the Huckabee show, and they want to be a part of this, because it's just something great to be a part of. And I've been honored and blessed to be able to do this. Michele, is it a bucket list for you? Is it on your?
It's never been on a bucket list, but the audience experience now, that sounds like
is that the bucket list for you now?
Like I'm like, that sounds amazing.
Come on, sister, we got you.
I want to watch all my friends on there. No, because what I love, June, is that you simply said that, because it's such a show of excellence that you have all these comedian friends that are being drawn to be there. And that's really how the work of God is. If you're doing something in the work of God, and you're in the middle of what he has for you, people come to you. It's, if you lift up the name, all men will be drawn unto you. So I love the fact that your son is doing what he's doing, and he's getting fans, but it's not really fans for him, because he's like, this is who I am. This is the center of who I am. So I love that he's showing that. And I love that you have such a heritage of what you've been doing, from your parents to your musical abilities to your tourism, like everything that's been happening in your life has all been to come and do what you're doing at this show. But what I love about this is I know that you wrote a book, The Man Who Loves Souls, and then that's about your grandfather.
Yes.
And you also created a like, is your music CD called like Heritage, right? So like you have all these things that's about your family, and then the heritage of your family, which all goes back to the heritage of Christ. I love this. Now, can people still order your book and your CD? Like, can people buy those things?
You can. And here's the thing. We did it because it wasn't for me. We did the CD of the heritage music, we wanted to do music that was what we grew up on. And the cookbook that my family did, and my book on my grandfather, which it was called The Man Who Loves Souls, because that's what is engraved on his grave marker. And that was what he said right before he died. My father asked him, Dad, what do you want people to remember about you most? And he said, I want them to remember that I was the man who loves souls. And that is what became the theme for that book. So if you were to order that book, and yes, you can go to WanetteTurner.com or WanetteTurner@gmail.com and request the book or a CD. Heritage CD is all about the older songs of faith, done in a style that's a little bit more modern, but still maintains the integrity of the music. But it was about sharing our heritage and preparing it for the future generations like Trey and Chase, June. My reference points growing up in the faith are not the same as my son. He didn't have two grandfathers that were pastors. He didn't live with his grandfathers half the time, and have a constant influence. He didn't go fishing and sit by the bank and listen to my grandfather's stories like I did. So it's like, what do you do for the next generation to make sure that you can capture a little bit of your past because you can't take your brain and put it in their brain to help them understand who you are,
right?
How you are as a parent or a grandparent, but you can give them pieces of your past through songs and books and words and actions and memories. And that is why we did all of this. It wasn't just about me, it was about my family. So the book, Man Who Loves Souls, is about Reverend Henry Robertson, who was my father's father. And he built over 80 churches in his lifetime.
Wow.
And I mean, most of them were physically building brick by brick. So when I was little, he started asking me if I would record things on cassette tapes back when cassettes were king.
Yes.
And
well, clearly I have records. I got lots of records.
Me too.
I have a pencil for a cassette. Oh.
Yeah, to twist the little And so he would ask me if I would record him talking. So I saved all of those cassettes, and I said, Papa, and I think I might have been 10 or 11. I said, I'm going to write everything in a spiral notebook too, just so in case we can't, use the tapes, we got it in print too. So my little hands would write as fast as I could everything he would say.
Wow.
And so over the years, I had stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of these spirals. And I told him one day when I was like 11, I think, and I said, Papa, one day I'm going to write a book about you. And he was laughing. He said, Wanette, you don't have to do that, honey. He said, everything that I do is for God. I don't care about the accolades of man. He said, he said, the Bible is the written word of God. And all I can say is that there's a whole lot that can be done for the kingdom as long as you don't care who gets credit, honey. And he said, and I don't care who gets the credit. I said, well, that doesn't matter. The people need to know your stories, and I'm going to write the story, and obviously you're going to be in it because it's your story. And he's like, well, whatever, someday. Well, you know what? It took me to the age of 40 to do it. When I turned 40, God started saying, Wanette, who are you? What are you doing? So I left my job working for Gannett, and I took a year off, and I wrote this book. And I pulled out all those old manuscripts and just typed every word by word, tried to leave his own lingo in it. Like he had a habit of saying words incorrectly.
Yes.
Because he had like a third grade education, He was the preacher that walked around in overalls, and wore an old derby hat and old boots. It was his thing. He was the guy that traded coon dogs and traded pocket knives with people out in the, he would go sit at a bar, and he didn't drink a drop in his whole life after he gave his heart to the Lord. And he would just go where the hurting people were. And he'd say, hey, let's talk. And he became known as Preacher Robinson, was what they called him in the community. And he would just go hang out with people and trade stuff and invite them to come on out to wherever his next revival or church service was. And won an amazing lot of people for the kingdom. And I watched him give his shoes away to a man one time who said the only reason he couldn't come to church is because he didn't have good enough clothes to be in the presence of God. And my grandfather left his shoes there when he left his house, and the man didn't realize it until after he was gone. And my grandfather walked home in snow with no shoes on.
Wow.
because he wanted this man to know that he loved him enough that he wanted to see him in the house of God. And that man's family went to church the next Sunday, and that was many generations ago, and their whole family has been changed because of that. So the stories you're going to read in the book are pretty powerful. You're going to see stories like the Hatfields and McCoy kind of stories, because he was born in 1909. And he lived out in the country. And, you know, they were shooting each other and killing each other. That was their own law back then.
Yeah.
You know, they were moonshining and building stills and just trying to survive. I mean, so some of the stories are pretty powerful. So if you're into that that kind of story, or maybe the early holiness movement, you'll hear his stories of how he gave his life to God, and the transformation in his family's life after that. So it's called themanwholovesouls.com. If you want to see some of his family pictures, you can go to themanwholovesouls.com and see like 75 photos of his growing up and his family, and learn more about the book there as well.
Wow. It's not surprising.
fantastic.
He ends up with a granddaughter who, when you tell the story and you're saying that he went to people, he just went and connected with people. He just hung out with people and enjoyed being with people. And then years later, his granddaughter is doing the same thing. She's just connecting with people and making people feel. Now, I don't know if you're trading. I'm pretty sure you don't trade pocket knives over there at the Huckabee show, but you probably could, because a lot of the audience, I'm sure, show up with the pocket knife. My family is that, but the men in my family, they don't think like, oh, we're not allowed to take pocket knives through security. So maybe that'll be another thing you could do. You know,
real men carry pocket knives and fingernail clippers. What?
Well, Wanette, we thank you so much for being on the show. Wow.
We need to have you back. We need to have you back, because there's so much more I have to ask you.
Yes, we
Yeah,
absolutely do.
I did want to say this one last thing. I didn't get to answer your question, Michele, about what's it take to be on the show. You know, that what you're looking for as far as warm-up comedians go is obviously clean content, content that will appeal to an older audience, people that are patriotic, people that typically are supporters of first responders and, you know, veterans, and just believe in our republic, and being patriotic, and being proud to be an American. They're not particularly political, but they do appreciate a host of the show that doesn't necessarily speak from the right or the left, but just speaks about what's good for the country. And so when you come in as a warm up, if you're interested, if any of the warm ups that watch your show are interested in putting their name in the hat to be warm up, what they're going to want to do is reach out to me at wturner@tbn.tv. Make sure you provide your links and things that I can see your performances, a little bio, somebody that recommends you that I might be familiar with, and just give me a chance to get to know who you are as an artist yourself. And be prepared, you know, and it's June. I don't know if you got this. I can't remember the night you were there, if they kind of made you move around on the schedule, or if you actually went out ahead of time, or in the middle, or somewhere else. But sometimes, depending on the layout of the show, they may ask our warm-ups to come out in the middle of taping, like during a lull, or a place where they've stopped down for a little while. So as long as you're flexible and you want to be considered for warm-up, we only have 52 weeks a year, 52 shows a year. So obviously we can only rotate so many warm-ups in a year. And right now it's 1 to 2 times a year at the most we can even get somebody in, simply because there's only 52 dates a year. So if you can get in once a year, that's going to probably end up being the average opportunity before you know it, because as new comedy comes in, we want to keep everybody in the rotation and moving. But we love you, June. We love you.
Oh my gosh.
I can't wait to have you back.
I had absolutely the best experience ever. From the little hiccups to just the amazing audience and the experience all the way around. Like, I could not have asked for more of a blessed first time experience being out there doing the crowd warm up. God's timing is perfect. You know, again, we've talked several times on the episodes about, you know, losing my mom not long ago, and, you know, just lost her in May, and life has been a real roller coaster. And then there was this nice quiet little moment right before I got to do the crowd warm up at the Huckabee show. And it was just this kind of, it was perfect timing. It was just what I needed for my soul and for my life at the moment. And I can't thank you enough for considering me, because I know, Michele, you can hear it in her voice, that show is important. The people who come and sit in the audience, each and every single one of them means something to Wanette. And I didn't take that lightly. And I wanted to make sure that I did it right for you and for the people who are in the crowd. And so, as I told her before, just thank you for trusting me in that position, because that's your family, and you let me have a moment with your family. And that meant so much to me. And thank you for extending, you know, putting that out there for other people who might be interested in it. And and I hope one day to be back on there. I'll be back sitting in the audience anyway, because I watch and see which one of my friends are in town. And I believe we have a friend coming up soon that might be on there. So I'll be sitting in the audience again soon.
Well, I would love that. Michele, you can piggyback off of her and come on with her, okay?
Yes, ma'am. All right. All right. You got it. Wait, what food will be served?
I can tell you this, our next theme night for audience is August 19th. We're doing a 50s sock hop. Yeah.
I have socks. Socks.
And I just talked about my mom blowing her knee out at a sock hop.
Yep.
So
right? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Smell, if you need to come on August the 19th. That's when we're doing the sock hop.
There it is. I'm writing it down. I'm writing it down. Well, Wanette,
my birthday's in September. If you want to do another cake. No.
There you go.
Hey, you just let me know when you'll be there, and we'll make something happen.
If you're in the audience too, one of the part of that questionnaire is they do ask if you're celebrating something. They recognize people who are having anniversaries and birthdays. I was there in like October or something, and an elderly woman named June was in the audience, and it was her birthday, but it was nice October. So I was like, oh, because we get asked all the time, were you born in June? She wasn't. She was born in October.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that June was born in June. I had no idea.
Sometimes what will happen is like a group of daughters will bring their mom, to the show and say, this is our birthday celebration that we didn't get to take so-and-so months ago. And we brought mom down here, and this is a birthday trip. So when we get that info, we treat it just like somebody that's having a birthday that week. And we go on and give them a shout out. So, it's one of those experience things. It's one of those things that we just love being part of our experience. So hope you guys can all get out, and anybody who listens or watches, please come see us. Huckabee.tv.
Huckabee.tv. Well, Wanette, thank you again. Michelle's going to send you to the green room again. Enjoy those snacks. We're going to close it up here, but if you'll hang out for just a minute so we can properly tell you thank you for being here today. All right, Michele Van Dusen. What'd I tell you? I tell you.
Best guest ever. You were right on the money with that one. Right on the money.
I'm telling you, God has just put so many cool people in our path, has he not? And what an honor to have her on the show today. Well, we want to remind you guys, the Laugh Support Podcast, if you're listening, you can listen to the Laugh Support Podcast about any platform that you find a podcast. And if you would like to see us and see the cool t-shirt that I was showing, and the picture of Chase and the book and all of those things that we were showing off,
or this plant
and Michelle's plant, her random plant that hasn't died yet because it's not real, you can see us on the Creative Motion Network on Roku TV. You can also watch us on YouTube and on Vimeo. All right, and you can see these cool t-shirts. My kid's gonna be like, "Where's my shirt at?" If I really want to mess, if I wanted to mess with
a shirt today, where is it?
Yeah, if I wanted to mess with
it,
I'll walk out wearing it. That's what I would do. I'll throw on his t-shirt. Like, that'll totally rock his world. All right,
I can't
y'all.
fit my kids' t-shirts at all.
That's going to be it for this episode of the Laugh Support Podcast. As always, Jesus and Junebug loves you. And Michele, tell him goodbye, my friend.
Goodbye, my friend. And don't forget, squirrels may lose 25% of their buried food to thieves.
Back to the squirrels. It always goes back to the squirrels.